and connecting with people through the work of technology. I thought a lot about the year of doing this experience each Sunday, and not just on Sundays, but in really every aspect of our lives through the different forms of the ability to communicate and connect. And I'm reminded of the words that Benj Patrick and Justin Paul wrote for the Broadway play Dear Evan Hansen in the opening song that's entitled Waving Through a Window. Virtual windows as it is, looking at either phone screens or computer screens as if they are windows to the other people in which we are trying to connect, and how they do provide that ability to connect with other people, but they also can often be experienced as very lonely experiences of waving through that window. So listen to just the chorus of the words of the lyrics that they wrote for the song that Ben Platt sang as the Broadway play opened up in New York. On the outside, always looking in, will I ever be more than I've always been? 'Cause I'm tap, tap, tapping on the glass. I'm waving through a window. I try to speak, but nobody can hear. So I wait around for an answer to appear while I watch people pass. I'm waving through a window. Can anybody see? Is anybody waving back at me? Are there better lyrics to describe what it's been like during this pandemic, as many of us have tap, tap, tap on our keyboards or tap, tap, tap on the glass, just trying to get the thing unmuted so that we can be heard? Has there ever been any more common phrase spoken over this past year than, hey, you're on mute? Waving through a window, oftentimes losing sight of other people that are on the call and wondering if we are being seen, or are we being experienced, are we being heard, trying to speak and wondering if anybody here, waiting around for answers to appear, and wondering, is anybody out there waving back at me? Just before our annual meeting last year, the UUA put out a statement recommending that churches not meet in person until May 2021. I remember the first time I read that statement that came in May of 2020, I thought, well, that is cautious and that is very much appropriate with the recommendations from the CDC, but will we really be doing this experience for a year? Here we are in the first Sunday of June, past that deadline that they gave in May of 2021. And here we are in the same experience of tapping, tapping, tapping on the glass and waving through windows at each other. It has felt like over this past year that everything was put on pause. But in fact, while everything has felt like it's been put on pause, the world kept spinning. I know that I've often been in a meeting where, for some reason or another, my image stopped or my streaming stopped and hesitated for just a little bit, only to realize that I was already behind in the meeting by the time I reconnected. The meeting went on without me. And that is one of my greatest fears, because many of you know that I put the Zoom call down and pull up my sermon so that I can look at the screen. And I've often told our folks during rehearsal, then that's one of my fears on a Sunday morning, is that I'm just sitting here talking to the screen and everybody has moved on without me and I'm no longer on the call. But that is the experience. The world has kept spinning, even though we say we're closed, even though we say that we are shut down, even though we say that everything has been put on pause in our lives. The world has kept spinning and life has kept happening. We've had sicknesses, we've had deaths in the past year during the life of the UUCC. We've done memorial services on Zoom and created opportunities in the virtual world for family and friends to grieve, to be able to experience that loss. The world has kept spinning. There's a sign on the door at our church building that says closed until further notice. But the building itself has needed to be maintained, and the grounds have needed attention. The administrative work of the UUCC needed attention because we had a duty to keep the chalice flame burning. Why? Because the world has kept spinning. What an amazing job Andrea, Jenny, and our newest staff member, Michelle, who's on the call with us today, and Bill have done keeping the UUCC functioning as the world has kept spinning. Can we just pause for 1 second and offer our gratitude virtually to Andrea, Jenny, Michelle, and Bill Dolly for all that they have done keeping our UUC functioning. The world kept spinning. We still had children and youth who needed care, instruction, spiritual development, maybe even more so in this past year. What an amazing job that Scott, Mackenzie, the CYRE committee, and the many volunteers have done to keep the work going as the world has kept spinning. Can we pause and offer our gratitude to these folks, Scott, Mackenzie, the committee, and the volunteers for all the ways that they've invested in the lives of our children and youth at the UUCC, and done so in creative ways. As you heard earlier, the music program here made a commitment, a resilient commitment that we will not stop singing. So can we pause, as we just did, for just a moment and offer deep gratitude to Anna for the many ways that she has kept the music at the UUCC vibrant, meaningful, creative, and relevant. Offer our gratitude to all of those who have been involved in that good work. And to the many volunteers who have logged countless hours and energy, to Rod and the board for continuing to hold the framework of our work, the volunteers who are caring for our members and our community, those who helped prepare worship services, present them live and recorded versions on the web, the many volunteers who have led committees to do the work of the UUCC. And we will take an opportunity at the end of this month and the end of our church year to recognize and thank all of those leaders for all that they've done in this past year. For everyone who has been involved and committed time and energy and effort to the work of the UUCC, we have all been keepers of the chalice, keeping the UUCC flame burning brightly. Why do we do that? Because the world has kept spinning, and we have a sacred duty to keep the UUCC strong simply because we have work to do. The world is still spinning. We've had so many guests attend our services virtually, people in our community looking for a spiritual home, a place of support as they engage their personal quest for truth and meaning. So we keep the chalice burning brightly. We have a climate crisis that hasn't stopped because of a pandemic. It continues to loom. And the interdependent web of existence that depends on our attention and our care and our energy. And for that reason, we keep the chalice burning brightly. We continue to have a culture obsessed with guns, and gun violence has become a norm. Mass shootings have become commonplace occurrences. And for that reason, we keep the chalice burning brightly. We have members of the LGBTQ community who experience oppression and injustice, who need a spiritual home, who welcomes everyone to be themselves, not just tolerance, but a covenant of acceptance. And for that reason, we keep the chalice burning brightly. We have systemic racism in our culture that needs to be dismantled. Violence, killings, and abuse have continued because the world has kept spinning. And what greater reason to keep the chalice burning brightly? So much injustice, corruption in our culture, in our political systems. All these things have not been put on hold, but some have even thrived during this year of pandemic. The world has kept spinning. And because the world has kept spinning, We need to keep the chalice burning brightly. So much work that is ahead of us, so much work that we have done and accomplished. When we say that we've been on pause, when we say that our church has been closed until further notice, it is absolutely to the contrary. We have been busy, we have been at work, doing the work of the UUCC and laying the groundwork for the year that is ahead of us, that we can be excited about and hopeful. I don't know when we will return to our building on 2701 Hayward. The reopening committee and the board are working really hard on that, as well as so many others. I do believe it will be very soon. But as we reflect over this past year, the year where our building has been closed, the UUCC has remained strong. We have kept our chalice burning brightly, standing in the gap against injustice, siding with love against hate and violence, caring for each other and all creatures and our climate around us. So in a last moment of gratitude this morning, look around at each other on these screens, scroll across the screens, and as you're scrolling across the screens, see yourself and be proud of who you are and what you have done. The UUCC is one of, if not the most hopeful things in Columbia, South Carolina. So we have a sacred duty to keep that flame of our chalice burning. We have so much work to do. Our community, our culture, our world needs us. We are the UUCC. Today, we're going to be moving straight to our annual congregational meeting. And so the